Hello and welcome to another Unity Game Dev tutorial. In this video we'll be briefly looking at using inheritance and scriptable objects in Unity. With that said, let's get stuck in. Okay, let's take a brief look at the scene that we've got in front of us. We've got an empty game object that's got a rigid body, a box collider and our movement script attached to it. We've got the player sprite as a child and we've got our ground check. And then we've got our background, we've got our background image, and then we've got our borders to stop our player exiting the screen. If we have a quick look now, see what's happening in the scene. Okay, our little bunny just moves about and he can jump around. So it's just a simple movement script. We'll quickly take a look at that now. So if we go into scripts, go into movement, open in Visual Studio. As you can see, it's pretty much a generic movement script, apart from two different things that you might have noticed as I'm scrolling down. If we take a look at the get input and jump functions, we've actually got this virtual here. This is because we want to be able to override these functions when we're using the inheritance. So everything's commented. You can grab the files from my Discord channel. So let's jump back into Unity. We go back into scenes. We'll duplicate this scene. Open it up. Jump into the player. And we'll remove the movement script. Okie doke, and then if we just click play, you can see and hear me tapping buttons and nothing's happening. Okay, now we'll jump into our script folder. We'll create a new script. We'll call this Cute Bunny. Again, once it's compiled, we'll open it up in Visual Studio. We'll delete everything from here, so it's an empty script. And instead of being a mono behavior, what we'll do is we'll inherit from the movement class. So we'll get rid of mono behavior and type in movement. Now, if we save this, jump back into Unity. Wait for it to compile and attach it to our player component. Straight away you'll notice we've got all these variables shown up, but if we look at our script is completely blank. This is the beauty of inheritance. You can create a base class and inherit all the methods and functions, values, variables, whatever's in that class, and if you wish to override it, you can. So if we put the ground check in, set the ground check layer to ground, and hit play, as you can see, our bunny's moving and jumping about, and we actually haven't written a single line of code. So that is basically inheritance in a nutshell. I could go into more detail, but I'm trying to keep my videos a bit brief. So the next thing we'll look at now will be scriptable objects. We'll create a new script in the scripts folder, and this time we'll call this one input bindings. Wait for that to compile. Open it up into Visual Studio. We'll delete all of this. We want to inherit from scriptable object. And just in the top here we need to add create asset menu. This will allow us to create the asset in Unity. So if we now jump back into Unity, when everything's compiled, if we right click create, you'll now see we've got input bindings come up, and we can now create input bindings. As you can see at the moment, it's empty object. So if we jump back into the code, we'll start filling it out. You can add names and attributes to this. You can give it a default name and a default file, say title and stuff like that. So if you want to look into that, feel free. So we want to change our keys, and we want to be able to change them ideally on the fly. So we start off by creating a public enum, and we call this keyboard. Okay, and in here we're set out what keys we want to use. So if we want to move left and right, we use left, right, A, S, and for jump buttons we'll use space. If we want to use left control, all of a sudden you'll notice that it's all gone red and we've got an error. This is because you can't have spaces in enums. So what we'll do, we'll delete that, and we'll just pick another key quickly, C for jump. Okay, down here we'll create a header, and we call this, I don't know what should we call it, movement. Okay, in here we need a public keyboard, and we need to give it a name, so we want our left key, and that will be equal to keyboard dot, and we set that to left. Right, we need to do this again for jump and the right key, so we do public keyboard right key equals keyboard dot right, and then public keyboard jump key equals keyboard dot space we want. If I can actually get there and not butterfinger everything up. Okay, let's sort that formatting out. Close that off, save it, jump back into Unity, wait for it to compile, and you'll now see we've got our options up here, so we can choose what keys we want to use to move the player. Okay, so we'll need to jump into the Cute Bunny script and reference this new input bindings. So we'll open up the Cute Bunny script, we'll make our reference, we want a public input bindings, and we'll call it input bindings. Okie doke. Now if we jump back into our movement script, and we nick these two functions, we paste them into the script, and instead of making them virtual, we're typing override. And we're typing override down here. Okay, you'll notice these are all red. It's because in my movement script, they're all private. So if we delete the serialized fields, and we make everything public, we should then clear all of the errors. So we'll copy that. We make it all public. And if we save that, all of our errors have gone. Okay, so now we've got a reference to our input bindings. We actually want to use those input bindings. So instead of having a hard-coded key A here, we'll do input bindings dot left key dot to string. We'll change the D key. So that would be input bindings dot right key to string. And finally, we just need to change the jump button to sorry, input bindings dot jump key dot to string. Okay, now if we save that, jump back into Unity, but you won't actually be able to see my hands moving and see the keys. So to start off with, we have a S, although I'll change that to D in a minute, and space for controls. If we click play now, it would help if I assign the input bindings to the player. So we'll drag that down there. If you don't want to see things like the rigid body, we can just jump in and jump into the movement script, and just above that we can type hide in inspector, and if we go back and save, go back into Unity, we now notice the rigid body's disappeared. Okay, so we'll try that again. As you can see now, I'm A and S and space to jump. Now, why would we do this? Because we can now go to left and right. And if we go back and I press my A and S keys, nothing happens. But if I go and move my left and right keys, I've now got control of my player using the left and right keys in real time. Now, if we stop it, unlike doing it the normal way, Scriptable Objects actually save the state. In your build, you'll want to create a save file and save all of these states. So if we quickly run it again, and this time we'll change the jump key. We can change the jump key to key A. And when I on here, I press key A. This is a bit difficult to see what's going on, so if we want to jump over to this project, and we run this and have a look at what's going on. This is for key remapping. If we take a look at my input settings, I've got all of these different keys that you can set. So up key is set to up. So if I press the up arrow, it tells me what action key is mapped to what. Up, down, left and right. We can do fire on our gamepad buttons. If we change left to A, you'll notice it's changed up in here. And now when I click A button will move my player left. And basically what I'm now going to do is be able to save all of the bindings and be able to create a rebindable input system using these scriptable objects. So this is basically scriptable objects in a nutshell. You can expand on this quite a bit. One thing I will mention, if we jump back into this, if I can remember what script we're in, the player script, open that up. These are three handy functions that I'll put in because of the issues you have with enums. So let me just copy those. Go back into this demo. Where are we? We're in the keep bunny because that's what we're overriding. In fact, we'll put it in the movement script because we can then inherit from it. Check input down here. We'll make those public. Okay, make that one public. And that one public. Okay, as you can see what these do, this one inserts an underscore at the start of a string. We can use this for our player 2 controls. So if we look at my project settings, we've got fire 1 is mapped to joystick 1, button 1, and underscore fire 1 is mapped to joystick 2, button 0. So you can see it's all mapped in there. Adding this in allows me to go into the enums and add certain keys. So because we want to use player 2 and we want to differentiate. If we have a quick look back at my input settings, the player buttons are all the same. All we're doing is we're adding the prefix when we get the button. Okay, I'm getting a bit confused where I should be. We're in this demo, so we need to save that. Now if we jump back into the input bindings, we can type left underscore left control, jump back into here, okay, and then we use replace string input bindings dot jump key to string instead, and what that should do is remove the underscore and allow us to use the left control key to move our player. So if we jump back into Unity, we go to our input bindings, we're going to jump, hit left control. Now when we play it, we can now use control keys. So basically that's scriptable objects. You can apply the same principles to your player, so you can, rather than having all these variables set up here, you could have those in a scriptable object. It's endless. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit like and subscribe and join me on my Discord channel. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.